The cafe buzzed with the murmur of conversations, rain lashed against the windows. She sat alone, a book lying forgotten in her hand. He entered, his eyes searching the room and their gazes locked. Time seemed to stop. He moved towards her, drawn by an invisible force. His smile was tentative, hers hesitant. "May I sit here?" he asked, his voice a low rumble. She nodded, her heart pounding against her ribs. As they talked, a strange familiarity bloomed between them. Their laughter mingled with the soft jazz music playing in the background. She felt an undeniable connection with him, a sense of belonging she had never experienced before. But beneath the surface of their newfound connection lurked an unspoken tension, a shadow cast by the secrets they both held close. Little did they know, their chance meeting was not a coincidence, but the beginning of a journey that would unravel their carefully constructed worlds. His name was Daniel, and he was a writer, drawn to her quiet intensity and the melancholy that flickered in her eyes. Her name was Sophia, an artist haunted by a past she couldn't escape. They shared their stories, carefully navigating around the landmines of their pasts. Daniel spoke of his nomadic life, the solitude he both craved and feared. Sophia spoke of her love for art, how it gave voice to the emotions she couldn't express. With each passing day, they drew closer, their connection deepening into something profound. Yet they both harbored secrets, painful truths buried deep within their hearts. Sophia's past was a tangled web of heartbreak and betrayal, while Daniel's was shrouded in a mystery he refused to unravel. These unspoken truths hung between them, a silent threat to their blossoming love. As they fell deeper into the abyss of their feelings, they were oblivious to the storm brewing on the horizon, a storm that threatened to tear them apart. The past, like a phantom, was slowly creeping up on them, ready to shatter their fragile happiness. One evening, while walking along the beach, Sophia noticed a man watching them from afar. His face was etched with pain and accusation. She recognized him instantly. David, her estranged husband, a ghost she thought she had outrun. Fear coiled in her stomach. She had built a fragile peace, a semblance of normalcy, and now David's sudden appearance threatened to shatter it all. The secrets she had so carefully guarded, the truths she had buried deep within, clawed at the edges of her composure. Daniel, sensing her distress, questioned her about the man. Sophia, unable to bear the weight of her lies any longer, confessed everything. She told him about her past, her marriage, and the web of deceit she had woven to escape it. The air crackled with tension as Daniel processed her confession. Hurt and betrayal warred with the love he felt for her. Their idyllic bubble had burst, exposing the raw, jagged edges of their vulnerabilities. Despite the revelation, Daniel couldn't deny the love he felt for Sophia. He understood her reasons, her desperation to break free from a loveless, abusive marriage. He vowed to protect her, to face the storm alongside her. Their love, forged in the fires of adversity, burned brighter than ever. They found solace in each other's arms, a sanctuary from the storm raging around them. But their happiness was short-lived, tainted by the constant fear of David's presence. David, consumed by jealousy and a thirst for revenge, became a constant threat. He stalked their every move, a dark cloud hanging over their newfound joy. Sophia and Daniel found themselves living in a state of perpetual fear, their love tested at every turn. As days turned into weeks, Sophia realized that her past was not just a shadow, but a prison that threatened to consume both her and Daniel. She knew she had to confront David, to break free from his grasp once and for all. Determined to end the nightmare, Sophia decided to meet David, to reason with the ghost of their past. She believed that maybe, just maybe, she could make him understand, convince him to let her go. They met at a deserted park, the air thick with unspoken accusations and regret. David, his face etched with pain, accused her of betrayal, of abandoning him. Sophia, tears streaming down her face, pleaded for understanding, explaining the circumstances of their marriage. But just as David seemed to soften, a flicker of recognition crossed his face, as he glanced at Daniel standing at a distance. "You love him, don't you?" he whispered, his voice a mixture of pain and resignation. Sophia's heart pounded against her ribs. She wanted to deny it, to shield Daniel from the storm that was about to break, but her eyes betrayed her. In that moment, David knew the truth. David's eyes hardened, the fleeting moment of vulnerability replaced by a cold fury. He lunged at Daniel, a primal scream escaping his lips. Sophia watched in horror as the two men grappled, their struggle a blur of motion. She screamed for them to stop, her voice lost in the chaos. The world seemed to spin, the ground tilting beneath her feet. In that moment of chaos and violence, a single gunshot shattered the air. Silence descended upon the park, heavy and absolute. Sophia's breath caught in her throat as she watched Daniel crumple to the ground, a crimson stain blooming on his chest. David stood frozen, the gun clattering to the pavement beside him. Time seemed to stop. The world around her faded to a dull roar as she rushed to Daniel's side, her own scream trapped in her throat. His eyes fluttered open, a look of love and regret clouding his gaze. "Sophia," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Don't blame yourself, it was my choice to protect you." His hand, covered in blood, reached out to cup her cheek. "Live your life, Sophia, be free." And with that, his eyes fluttered closed, his hand falling limply to the ground. Sophia cradled him close, her own tears mingling with his blood. The weight of his lifeless body crushed her, the enormity of her loss stealing her breath. David, his face ashen, had fallen to his knees, the reality of his actions crashing down upon him. He had acted in a moment of blind rage, fueled by jealousy and despair, and now he had to live with the consequences. As sirens wailed in the distance, Sophia looked down at the man she loved, his face now serene in death. Daniel's sacrifice, his unwavering love, had bought her freedom, but at a price she never wanted to pay. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Sophia found herself caught in a whirlwind of grief and guilt. She blamed herself for Daniel's death, convinced that it was her past, her secrets, that had led to his untimely demise. David was arrested and charged with manslaughter. In a cruel twist of fate, Sophia's honesty on the witness stand, her testament to Daniel's love and David's remorse, led to a reduced sentence for the man who had taken everything from her. Sophia left the city, seeking solace in the quiet anonymity of a small coastal town. She poured her grief into her art, her paintings a reflection of her shattered heart, a tribute to the man who had loved her without reservation. Years passed, but the memory of Daniel, his love, his sacrifice, remained a constant presence in her life. She never forgot the lessons he had taught her, the importance of honesty, forgiveness, and the transformative power of love. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the beach, Sophia noticed a familiar figure standing at the water's edge. It was David, his face etched with the passage of time, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. He had served his sentence, paid his debt to society, but the real punishment, the burden of his actions, was a weight he would carry for the rest of his days. He had come to seek forgiveness, not from society, but from the woman he had wronged the most. Sophia stood facing him, the sea breeze whipping her hair around her face. Years of pain, anger, and grief welled up inside her, but as she looked into David's eyes, she saw a depth of remorse, a quiet plea for absolution. In that moment, Sophia understood the true meaning of forgiveness. It wasn't about condoning the past, but about releasing herself from its grip. With a heavy heart, she forgave David, not for him, but for herself. As the sun sank below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the beach, Sophia and David stood in silence, bound by a shared past, their destinies forever intertwined. The past could not be undone, but in forgiveness they found a measure of peace, a chance to heal, to honor the memory of the man who had brought them together and torn them apart.